There's a rule in the Peak District that the tourists don't know about. The locals don't put it on the leaflets. They don't mention the old cobblestone road that branches off the A6187, the one that leads down into the valley where sunlight seems to go to die. They just say, don't go to St. Jude's after dusk. And if you ask why, they change the subject. Fast. I'm a photographer. Or I was. My name is Liam, and 3 weeks ago, I thought I was smarter than 300 years of rural superstition. I thought a haunted village would look like a movie set. Fog machines, broken windows, skeletons in the well. I was wrong. St. Jude's doesn't look abandoned. It looks paused. Let me tell you what happened on the night I stopped believing in bad luck and started believing in the thing that lives in the dark. I got there at 4 p.m. October. The sky was that bruised purple color you get before a storm. The sat-nav died exactly 3 miles from the village, not a glitch. Just a spinning compass on the screen, like the map itself had forgotten the place existed. I parked my car at the rusted gate. The sign said St. Jude's, population 84. The paint was fresh. That was my first red flag. A village that was officially decommissioned by the council in 1963 shouldn't have fresh paint on the sign. The air smelled wrong, not like rot, like lavender and wet wool, like the inside of a dead grandmother's wardrobe. I walked down the main street. There was a pub, the Sleeping Fox. The glasses were still on the bar, half a pint of stout. The foam had dried into a brown crust decades ago, but the glass hadn't shattered. It was just sitting there. There was a bakery, a butcher, a church with a leaning steeple, and everywhere I pointed my camera, I saw the same detail that made my skin crawl. The doors were open, every single one, not smashed, not hanging off hinges, propped open, like the residents had just stepped out for a second to check on something in the road. And then I saw the man on the bench. He was old, flat cap, leather boots. He was sitting outside the post office, facing the sun. I thought, thank God, a local. I called out, "Excuse me, mate?" He didn't turn. I walked closer. 10 feet, 5 feet. I reached out to tap his shoulder, and my hand went straight through him. He wasn't a ghost. He was a shadow. A 3-dimensional shadow burn onto the wood of the bench. The light passed through him like he was made of cigarette smoke, but he was solid enough to cast a shadow of his own. The shadow on the ground had a detail that the man himself didn't. The shadow was moving. Its fingers were twitching. I ran backwards. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I stumbled over the cobbles and landed hard on my back. That's when I looked up at the church tower. The clock face said 11:43, but there was no hour hand, just a minute hand scraping backwards. Click, click, click. And in that silence, I finally heard something. Not wind, not animals. Whispering. It wasn't coming from the buildings. It was coming from the ground. 1,000 voices deep under the soil, speaking in a language that sounded like English but wasn't. Every third word I understood. Cold. Milk. Wait. Mother. I crawled into the church. The pews were full. Not with bodies. With shapes. Dusty outlines of people, kneeling. Posture perfect. And on the altar, there was a Bible open to a page I'd never seen before. The book of Luke, chapter 8. But the verses were wrong. Instead of the story of the demon-possessed man, the text just repeated the same line over and over. And he asked the legion its name, and it replied, "We are many, but we are one. We are the echo of the last prayer." I heard the church door slam behind me. I turned. There was nobody there, but the shadow of the man from the bench was standing in the doorway. And it spoke, not with a voice, with a vibration in my own chest. "You took a photograph, Liam." I looked at my camera. The LCD screen was on fire with static. You have to stay. You have to sit down. The service is about to begin. I smashed the window with a hymn book and jumped 2 stories onto the graveyard. I felt my ankle snap. The pain was white hot. Real. I limped to my car. The keys were in my pocket. I hit the unlock button. The car chirped. And then every light in St. Jude's turned on. Not electricity. There's no grid. Candles, oil lamps, lanterns in every single window. The village lit up like a Christmas market. And the doors that were propped open, they started swinging. Gently, in unison, like lungs breathing. I got in the car. I turned the key. The engine roared to life. I reversed toward the gate, and the gate was gone, replaced by a dead end of stacked gray stones. A wall that hadn't been there 60 seconds ago. I looked in the rearview mirror. The back seat was folded down, and inside the boot, a shape was forming. Dust and lint and old leaves twisting together, spiraling into the shape of a woman. Old, smiling. She was knitting. She looked up. Her eyes were just deeper darkness. She said, "We've been waiting for the village photographer. We need a record. To prove we were real." I drove the car straight into the wall. I woke up in a hospital in Sheffield. 3 days later, the paramedics said they found me on the side of the A6187, covered in cobwebs with a broken ankle and severe hypothermia. They said there was no village, just an old quarry and a sinkhole. My camera was on the bedside table. I didn't want to look, but I had to. I scrolled through the photos. The first 10 were empty streets. Fine. Pause time. Then the man on the bench. The shadow. Then the church. Then the last photo. I didn't take this photo. It was a selfie, taken from inside the village, looking out. The background is the stone wall I crashed into. In the foreground, standing in front of my own car, is me. But I'm wearing clothes from 1952, a tweed jacket, a flat cap, and my reflection in the car window. My reflection is knitting. The villagers don't want to kill you. They don't want to scare you. They want to replace you. I'm selling the camera on eBay today. I'm moving to a city with no valleys and no old roads. But last night, I woke up at 11:43 p.m. My window was open. The curtains were breathing. And downstairs, I heard the front door propped open. Just a crack. Just enough for a shadow to slip through. If you ever see a sign that says population 84, and you check the census, and the census says that village was wiped out by the plague, do not stop. Do not take a picture. And for God's sake, don't blink, because they only move when you aren't looking.